Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video where we talk about stuff. So do we have a lot to talk about today? A lot of times, and I've said this before because it keeps on happening, within the cryptocurrency space, we get spectacularly tremendous news, and for whatever reason, a lot of people keep pretending that it's not a thing, and I'm not sure exactly how this happened. Since the introduction of the Bitcoin spot exchange traded funds within the United States, we have witnessed quite a large amount of accumulation. When a couple of weeks ago, at the time of me making this video, prices fell, and I use air quotes because it was like 4 to 5%, and everyone was pretending it was like 38% of a drop. We started getting a lot of news that the inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs weren't as spectacular or as amazing as they previously were before. You might have seen that video where I was like, hey, everyone, they're still buying a lot of Bitcoin. Don't be afraid. I didn't say afraid, but it was kind of like the general theme because the original numbers that we were getting was just BlackRock and Fidelity were accumulating 13 times, 13x the amount of Bitcoin that was being mined per day. Spectacular, wonderful. They're buying up all the Bitcoin that's meant for 8 billion people. Cool. But then the other part is when prices dipped a little bit, there were, I think, a 3 or 4 day period where I think they were only accumulating 2 or 3 times the amount of Bitcoin that were mined. And I remember seeing on Twitter, everyone was like, well, I guess the bull run's over. I guess we can all be sad now. And it's like, do you understand what it means for something to happen and then for it to go away because 2 companies bought up 3 times the amount of it that there could have been? Just as, just asking for the sake of math and supply and demand. And now even now, we're now getting figures that apparently, once again, because for some reason the narrative rests solely on the shoulders of BlackRock and Fidelity, not exactly sure why, that even now, I think they're doing around a 7 or 8 times daily the amount of Bitcoin that's being mined. So mathematically, we should be a lot higher in price because you cannot absorb 8 times something that is being made and the price remains stagnant, but I digress. So the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been getting a lot of like ETF numbers. I'm not sure if people have been seeing it. A lot of like the ETF filers have been releasing numbers, and we're seeing exactly who owns tons of Bitcoin. Been a lot of crazy numbers. Spoiler alert for everything that's been going on. So this news was released, and to my dismay, it for some reason was just not as popular as I assumed that it should have been. You might remember in February, where I was like, if these levels of accumulation from these companies persist, we are going to live in a world, it has to happen mathematically, where they own all of the Bitcoin that's actually out there. Because if 450 is created per day, and even if they just are getting 3 times that much, at some point there's going to be nothing left because they're taking from the. So, according to recent data, now these numbers are going to shock you, and if they don't, math might not be for you. According to recent data, the 10 spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds just within the United States. If you've missed out, we also have ETFs in Australia, in Singapore, in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong ones, the rumor still is that people in China are going to be able to access them. There's Bitcoin ETFs in Europe. I know for certain in Germany, they're trying to get them going in the UK, and there's also some in Canada as well. So these are just the ones within the United States. In 128 days, so not 365, not 200 days, not 250, and also not 256, which is also going to be relevant. In 128 days, they acquired 548,556 Bitcoin. We've gotten news before that there are a few other companies in the space who have acquired 50,000, 100,000, and the MicroStrategy has the 200,000 Bitcoin. It took them more than 2 years, to be able to acquire that much Bitcoin. These companies did it in 128 days. Why the significance of 256? Because 128 doubled is 250 the number. And then also 365 days, it's still less than that. So meaning, mathematically, in the next 128 days, we are probably going to see the ETF issuers have acquired more than 1 million Bitcoin. For those of you not paying attention to the numbers, 21 million Bitcoin, 19 million have been mined so far, but every time that new ones get mined and created, they're bought up by the ETFs and by world banks. In case you also missed that news, yes, banks are also going directly to the people who are mining the Bitcoin to buy from them because they don't want to buy on cryptocurrency exchanges, because if they do, the prices will go up. Not sure if anyone was getting that news. Here's the kicker though. Since the 12th of January, new Bitcoin ETFs have amassed 548,566 Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. But there's a problem because those numbers are not counting one very significant holder within the space. Those numbers were not counting the company called Grayscale. Grayscale, you might remember as the devious child towards the beginning of the year where we saw a lot of the outflows from their fund. Now, for those of you who've missed it, there's a lot of inflows into Grayscale's fund, and a lot of the news that we've been getting from banks and institutions and hedge funds and pensions around the world is that they're actively buying from Grayscale again. The reason why, particularly Grayscale, BlackRock, and Fidelity, who knows, but it's just what they're doing. Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF also has a little bit of Bitcoin, little tiny smidge. Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF currently holds 288,954 Bitcoin. So it's not a lot by any stretch of the imagination. It's only more than a fourth of a million Bitcoin that they've acquired. For those of you not doing the mathing right now, in 128 days, 128 days, all the ETFs just within the United States are holding 837,511 Bitcoin. That's not the numbers of all the other ETFs around the world. And that's not the normal, actual spot accumulation from companies and banks and institutions. Because some people do prefer a securitized ETF version of Bitcoin through the ETFs. But other companies and institutions and banks also choose the actual physical Bitcoin themselves, and they put it into cold wallets. And we've seen that news over the course of the last couple of years. But I think people also aren't paying attention to that. So according to these numbers, by what is that, 128 other days, by the time we get to September, October, these ETFs will probably have anywhere from 1.5 million to 2 million Bitcoin. Can anyone tell me why? Not only is the number gigantimous, but what comes after that? Time continues moving forward. So by the time we get to summer 2025, they will probably collectively hold more than 2 to 2.5 million Bitcoin. Not sure if you've been paying attention, but there's not a lot of Bitcoin left actually out there. The Bitcoin on crypto exchanges is not entirely liquid. Not everyone is selling their Bitcoin. It's just the way that things go. People are waiting for Bitcoin's price to go higher. And we've seen surveys before that show many people are waiting for $500,000 to $1 million plus Bitcoin before they even think about selling or selling fragments. But at that point, you'll only be using like smidges of your Bitcoin to be able to buy other things. These numbers are crazy. And I think that the rich and the wealthy have done a tremendously spectacular job of making sure that everyone can get news like this and that people just aren't affected by this. The amount of news I see about these other terrible altcoins that are out there is quite spectacular, because they're making you believe that these other coins hold some level of significance to the news that I just told you. We've been getting news. It's been years now. I almost said the word weeks. Silly me, right? It's been years that we've been getting this news, and the amount of people who are not paying attention, who are not literally like, you saw the movement that we just had in the market when prices moved up. It's because there's not a lot left. So any buying pressure will cause us to pump. This is why the institutions are buying OTC, over the counter, or buying directly from the people who are mining it, because they know that their purchases of billions of dollars are going to affect the prices. Yeah, just thought I'd bring you, not significant news at all. It's just more of a Bitcoin's rapidly taking over the world, and the amount of people within the cryptocurrency space who are ignoring this kind of news, the word's not daunting. It's exhausting is kind of the word. These people are going to own all the Bitcoin. I don't know where the skepticism comes from, or is unsurety a word? Insurety. The unsureness of people. I remember years ago talking about prices and how much Bitcoin there wasn't left on the market. And that's been squeezed quite dramatically as of late. And the weirdest part is to still see people being like, well, the prices aren't moving, or this isn't happening, or so. And I'm like, you're there. This is by design. They're making sure that you don't see the prices move as they accumulate all of these coins. And even more so, it's actually impossible, because we've seen the prices moving up while they've done their darndest to make sure that prices remain low so that they could buy more Bitcoin at a better rate. So, yeah, we are probably in the next couple of years going to see $500,000 to $1 million Bitcoin. And as always, I just want you to remember this moment where you heard this news explicitly. You heard these numbers, you understood them because I'm speaking in English, and you see the amount of accumulation that's happening in 128 days that we've never seen before in this market. That's only going to continue. For those of you who also just missed the news a couple of days ago as well, the people from BlackRock were on TV, and they said that they are actively discussing with sovereign funds, let's just say like funds from like nations, sovereign funds, who are looking to actively get into accumulating as much Bitcoin as they can. And that news, of course, was also not popular as well. So not really sure what it's going to take for the masses to really understand what's going on. I still personally believe it is going to have to be the shock of seeing a $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 Bitcoin that's going to get people to be like, I could have gotten some before. And then when we get to $1 million Bitcoin, I think that's going to be the happiest and probably saddest day of a lot of people's lives, because people who paid attention to all this accumulation and were like, supply and demand, of course that makes sense, they're going to be happy with the money that they have. But everyone else who continues to not pay attention to this level of accumulation and who don't want to pay attention, they'll realize they could have bought a Bitcoin years ago, or not possible now, and they could have bought fragments of Bitcoin now that would have translated into a huge amount of money in the future, because we're not that far off from all these crazy price predictions that we were getting from a lot of the analysts. Yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there. 837,511 Bitcoin in 128 days. So yeah, see you guys in December where we go over this again and we're like, what? How did they get 2.4 million Bitcoin? That's not how math works. I do hope that you're all paying attention. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope you are having a conversation with your portfolio. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.